Sound, we're here. I'm here. I think they can hear us. We'll see.
I think so. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Writer Brothers. I am most definitely not your host, but Petey York is.
Yeah.
Along
Apologies.
with Poyo Zapatos.
Apologies, as always, for the fun technical difficulties that we love to get started with every night. Unfortunately, I had all the time in the world to do sound checks, and I totally forgot to double check which outputs were selected because the OBS system I'm using just likes to make its own up for some reason when I don't plug it in right away. So, oh well, we'll try again next week like we do every week. We'll get it. I just need to keep remembering. I need a list of like, okay, check this, check that, check this, check that, check that. So, but anyway, we're not here to complain about technical problems. We are here, of course, to discuss the Prey movie and Terminal List. But real quick, guys, how you doing tonight? How you feeling about tonight's show?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to rock.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just dive right in then. Prey is the latest controversial craze on Twitter these days, and of course elsewhere in other social media communication platforms, where people can't seem to decide if it's the greatest Predator movie ever or if it's the worst Predator movie ever. I will say that as somebody who has not seen the original Predator, I felt that as an action movie, it was fine. I didn't hate it. But it's definitely far from perfect. What about you, Corion? What are your initial thoughts, real quick?
Okay, so I think it is a perfectly acceptable movie, but I have issues with calling it a Predator movie. I feel like the best things about a Predator movie were even with modern day tech, the Predator so outclassed on a technological level alone everything he was fighting, that putting them farther back in time just makes it even more of a cakewalk. So to me, it would be the equivalent of fighting a modern professional soldier, basically with just a stick. There's no way you're going to get close enough to this guy to use said stick, especially if he's got like ISR and everything else in play. There's just, it's not going to happen, right? So putting it in a 300 years in the past just makes that technological gap even further. One of the other pieces that makes it very important part of a Predator movie, every single one of the Predator movies, somebody makes the comment about how it is the hottest it has been since forever, okay? Because the Predators only show up when the climate is incredibly, incredibly hot. Initially, when they show up in the jungle, it's the hottest week this jungle has seen in a very long time. When they show up in LA, it's super hot in LA. And then the third movie, they take them to what the equivalent is a planet that's a game preserve. And even on that planet, they mention how much hotter it is than Earth when they're trying to figure out whether they're still on Earth or not. They make no mention of that in this movie. So with that in mind, I have a hard time calling it a Predator movie. The tech looked a lot more primitive. They're even calling this guy the primitive Predator, which I don't know, I have issues with. I have no idea why the dude was not walking around with the plasma cannon, which is like the signature Predator weapon. I feel like him firing, a ferromagnetic slug, but the only thing I can explain that weapon as seems kind of more advanced than the plasma weapon in a lot of ways, because it homes in on targets. So I'm not sure what this movie is trying to be, whether it's trying to be this showing us a more advanced Predator or a less advanced Predator, but it just doesn't follow the timeline well of the other Predator movies. So it would be a good fan fiction side story. I have some issues with the character development and the whole story arc, but action-wise, looked cool.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that when we get to what we did like about the movie, or John might try to segue us into that now, because I know you've been sitting there eagerly ready to respond to Corione, and I actually have a response too, even though I'm coming from a different perspective though. So John, why don't you go ahead and let's engage in some respectful fight or discourse. Excuse me.
So I love the movie. I was actually watching it the day it came out while Parker and I were doing Casual Filth a couple weeks ago. And I was talking to Parker the whole time. I was like, this is exactly what a Predator movie is always supposed to have been. And I don't remember the heat thing being that important, so I can't really comment on that part. But as for like the technology, as for the Predator himself being different in terms of like his approach, that to me is the difference between the evolution of Predators and the evolution of humans. Like humans, we it took us until the 1800s to discover that evolution may or may not be real, and until 2022 we're still debating on whether or not it's actually occurring. Whereas the Predators are a species that realized evolution is 100% a thing that matters, and have been doing everything they can to become the alpha of alphas, the most apex predator of all time. And I think what we got was a taste of a semi-apex predator. Comparatively to humans, predators are probably apex in their birth, which we've never seen, which I still love. I love the fact that we have no idea what the Predator homeworld looks like. I love that we have no idea the true nature of the Predators. And I like that this movie didn't try to tell it that to us. It didn't try to give us that. The primitive nature of the movie relates to the nature of the United States. And that I think is really fun. But as for like the weapons, versus like plasma and stuff, the thing that the Predators movie, the one before this one, really highlighted was that it wasn't just humans in the nature preserve. Like they were bringing every single race they could find at the same time. And so the difference where I see with the plasma weapons is I feel like obviously they didn't get that from us. So they had to get it from someone else. And theoretically, they just hadn't done it by 1700s American time. Or while this guy was here in 1700s America, another predator was somewhere else finding that.
So here's where I can argue that point to you. Because Alien versus Predator, we know the plasma cannons were at least as old, if not older, than the pyramids in South America. Because they grabbed one from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then that also goes back to the Predators movie with the debate on the two factions. There's the alpha predators, and then there's every other predator, and every other predator is also on the game preserve. That's the predator that gets on the ship and blows himself up in that movie was one of the non-alpha predators, while the predators that were hunting the people were the alpha predators. And that could explain it as well, not to mention like we haven't seen them totally use faster than light travel. So it could have been that he left with what he had and landed on Earth, and by the time he gets home he finds new stuff. And then on top of that, like this is my favorite thing about time dilation and space travel. Like one guy could leave with all primitive tech, get there, and find out that like his ancestors were there first with better tech. It's kind of like the whole ancient aliens debate. Like how long have humans had electricity?
Right, but now we have to start getting into the debate of like a backstory that could have easily been fixed by just staying more true to the original story.
But doesn't that make the story seem more realistic?
Because, it really doesn't to me.
The difference between Chinese vessels and American vessels, like seafaring vessels. Chinese, the largest seafaring vessels in the universe, as far as we knew, and the Chinese didn't take America, the Americans did. So like, tech isn't exactly the answer.
So I'll go ahead and just give my response to both you sort of, and then I'm gonna list off the things that I felt were problematic with this movie. So Coriota, and yes, I kind of am with John on this one a little bit, because when I watched the Drinkers review, which was spoiler central. Oh well. Although it's not like there's much to spoil. The plot's pretty simple. Creature shows up, people attack creature. The end. That's a super basic summary. So what when he said about the whole, with it being 300 years in the past and the predator getting itself stupidly killed, I was like, well, yeah, that's probably how the other predators learned to advance their technology and their tactics, was because this savage warrior was able to outsmart them, even though they do have some advanced tech, just not as advanced as what we see supposedly in the first movie, and of course in AVP, the only Predator movie I've ever actually watched all the way through. I know, shoot me. That's not an.
If I had a plasma cannon.
Yeah, that's not an invitation.
So
what I did, so with it being 300 years before the first film, that's a Predator that's 300 years behind on understanding humans, and the fact that it's dealing with one of the most savage groups of people when it came to the battlefield, it makes a lot of it did make sense. Now, somebody did point out to me at work today that the French traders.
Hold up, I think it is important to note that when you say savage, you're not being derogatory. You're talking about their overall physical prowess,
when they were
ability.
When they were on the battlefield, they were animals. But that's most anybody. That's what Arnold becomes in the Predator movie. He becomes an animal to defeat the animal.
I mean, the Comanche themselves were the Spartans of the United States. They were the most feared.
Fan mail from Maria with T and Telly. You guys are the best. And yes, when we say savage, we don't mean by the derogatory term. You're right. It is like, no, we literally mean the very base
aggression.
Yeah, exactly.
Violence.
Like, no, you're down to like primitive. Like, okay, first of all, they're a very basic. So one of Drinker's complaints was the fact that the Comanche were, there's no character development. Okay, the Comanche were a very simple people, like most tribes, and that's not a bad thing either. That's perfectly fine. It's actually great. I personally strive to live a simple life, and if I could live one like the Comanche, where I hunt and gather and then eat and sleep. That doesn't sound...
With your friends and family.
With your friends and family all the time, every day. That sounds fine to me. So that's not a bad thing at all. Yeah, but...
Well, there's a great line, I think, that sums up humanity when dealing with predators and what you kind of have to become in order to beat them. And Quark observes that, humans are great, wonderful people so long as they have their creature comforts. But when you take away their creature comforts, starve them and run them for days, they turn into the most savage and bloodthirsty Klingons.
Yeah, a little teaser discussion there. Starting in September, first Tuesday in September, we will actually begin our Star Trek Deep Space Nine watch through. We talked about it internally. We decided, even though other people are doing it, guess what? We're jumping on the bandwagon. But also, I haven't watched Deep Space Nine, I think, since 2012, 2013. No. I want to say 15 or 16 was probably the most recent time I watched it through with my wife. And I'm due for a new watch through anyway. John, you just finished Next Gen, and Corion just loved DS9, so it made logical sense. So yes, starting in September, we are doing our Deep Space Nine community watch through and review. We will have schedule posted on what episodes we're doing which week, because here's how we're also going to do it. We're going to try and burn through the first couple of seasons. There's a couple of episodes that we'll make time for, but a lot of it's a pretty rough slog, so it's going to be summary for the first couple seasons. And once we hit season 3, it'll probably be about 1 to 2 episodes a week. But, all right, back to the Predator. Or, excuse me, the Prey. I did, it made sense. And he didn't have any armor, so he wore a dumbed-down version of the plasma cannon that used projectiles. The technology did make sense, I think. Now, what bothered me, here's the 2 big standouts that I have a hard time getting over. The first one's not as big of a deal. It's the fact that she was able to take on... Now, her scuffle with the other male warrior of the tribe, I could see him holding back. Okay, she knows his brother. If he does too much damage to her, his brother's gonna
go toe-to-toe with her brother.
Yeah, brother's gonna kick his ass.
No, she didn't go toe-to-toe with the brother.
No, I know.
She went toe-to-toe with one of the other warriors.
Exactly, and that other warrior knows who her brother is, and that her brother will kick his ass if he does too much damage. So I can buy him holding back.
I hear you.
When she was scuffling with the French traders, that felt like a little bit much at times. Now, I can excuse and overlook that because it's still an action movie. So, I
can even go further in excusing it because she was raised by Spartans. So if we remember 300, King Leonidas' wife could have gone toe-to-toe with any of the Greeks minus the guy who won the Battle of Thermopylae. And she probably would have won every single fight.
Right.
Yeah.
So like
didn't he in 300?
The thing about the Comanche.
Didn't he actually?
Or American Spartans.
Yeah. Didn't Leonidas actually make the joke in 300 that he was like, "I could have marched the women up here for all the fight you gave me."
So
exactly.
Fan mail from Rin Shari says, "I thought he was a bow hunter. Obviously, the Predators could nuke the people from orbit, not the point. He goes bare fist early, claws versus wolf, arrows versus arrows, and bomb versus French ambush. He's trying to be honorable, and over the course of it, the Predator totally starts getting on an adrenaline high, starts taking hits, making mistakes, and like they basically reverse roles, he gets really arrogant." Yeah, that's a very good point, and I'll definitely touch on that when we get to what I did like. Now, here's the one fatal flaw for the movie that this is why it's going to get lower marks for me, is that stupid axe on a string. You might as well have given her a lightsaber at that point. That's how fictional that weapon is. Now, some people in that do master that art with that type of weapon, okay, they practice with a stick first. Her just pulling it back and suddenly being able to catch it and have those reflexes, no. At the same time, again, action movie, it still fits the spots of action movie. But is there any last things that we want to touch on that what we didn't like before we move on to what we did?
Just fan mail. Haha, her magic Kratos axe. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
But nobody complained about Kratos' axes when they were playing God of War. Like,
that's because God of War
video
has,
game.
And this is a fictional universe against predators.
And that's why I said action movie. It's not.
Yeah. So
they were going for some realism, but at the same time, I could tell. And there's probably stuff in the original Predator movie that I have yet to see that'll probably stand out as like, okay, we're reaching here, we're reaching there, but I will see.
I think Renshaw hit it very well when he spoke about the idea of like, yeah, the predators could nuke from orbit. That's not what the predators are doing. The predators aren't going to Earth to kill humans. They're going to Earth to be better predators. So they're going to, like, the whole movie really showed how she was legitimately a great predator. She knew what the predator, like, what a predator thinks when they're hunting. The Comanche were the most notorious hunters of all time. An American, like, prior to the conquistadors and, you know, the colonists, and that's what I loved about the scene, was the fact that when she goes toe-to-toe with the French people, none of them have ever practiced hand-to-hand combat since they ditched swords. Yeah. Most people ditched their swords early on, as soon as they could get a gun, because learning how to fight with a sword takes years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference between her and her competitors.
Yeah. Also got another fan mail from Rin Sharp. Magic axe made by mythological dwarves versus has string.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any last did not likes before we give our praise?
I'm gonna hit the big ones for the did not like here.
Go ahead.
Look, this is what it boils down to for me. There isn't a tribe in existence that doesn't have a certain level of utilitarianism to them. Okay? You have to make certain sacrifices for the group in order to survive. That's just how tribal life works. Okay? You have to accept sometimes that, like, the tribe really, really needs somebody who's, like, I don't know, a string maker or something along those lines. So that is what you are taught. That is what you are brought up to do. That is what you do. You do it really well. They make it clear very early on in this movie that she is by far one of the best medicine people they have. She was able to identify the herb lore necessary early on. They show that very well. To me, it seemed very clear they were grooming her to take over as the tribal healer as soon as they possibly could. Now, when they lost a hunter and they're going out to get it and she tags along, it made sense what her brother said to bring her along, because they're basically turning her into a paramedic at that point. I get that. I respect that. That makes sense to me.
No.
When
that I think is automatically wrong, just for the main point that, like, it started out very early on in the movie describing the ritual of the hunter. I cannot remember what it was called, but she is going, like, the whole movie is about her rite of passage into hunterdom. Like, she herself is working on becoming a predator equal to the tribe's predators.
Okay, she may want to be a hunter.
Of, like, emphasis. No, but the tribe considered that a right to every, like, I don't know how old she was, but, like, every 18-year-old has the right to join the predators of the tribe, join the war parties. And they have to do that, they have to hunt a hunter, which was the whole idea. Like, that's why the brother thought she was hunting the lion, but in reality she's like, no, I'm hunting something else.
Okay, but hear me out. These footprints. Hear me out. Let me finish on this one. Okay. Because I can get this person wanting that, but we either have to accept that this show has modern sensibilities and is going to follow a modern reality. If we're doing that, then then the historical stuff doesn't matter anyway, and we can just throw it off as a cheesy action flick that is abusing history to be able to make its point. Or we can accept or we can accept that this is at the very least trying to show a historical context of what would have happened in this time frame had this sort of scenario happened. If I'm looking at it from that perspective, in that perspective, one, yeah, okay, it may be that is a tribal custom that, look, you have to go hunt a hunter. That makes sense to me. Here's the problem with it. You are not going to allow very valuable people to the tribe to put themselves at risk if you can avoid it. Okay? That is just not a thing that you do. If you have, even modern day, if the US military found out that some dude working for the military was an absolute computer genius and was going to be able to like pull up Russian nuclear codes the same way that, you know, you and I check online banking, there's no way they're going to hand the dude a rifle and be like, we're going to drop you into Afghanistan and see what you can do. Right? That's just not going to happen. No matter how many protests, no matter how much arguing he does, that, well, I want to go out and like join, you know, the teams and do a drop into North Korea to go hunt down some dude. They're not going to let him do it. They're going to say, no, we need you breaking into computers because that's what you're really freaking good at. So,
yeah. Real quick, we got fan mail from BM says Mary Sue Pocahontas, which, okay, if you want to
100%.
You want to expand on that, please do. And Maria Tiatelli with a smiley emoji back at you. And of course, fan mail from Rinshar says, yeah, engineers can draft dodge. Agreeing with Orion.
Yeah, so that's my issue, right? If you've got somebody who's arguably an incredibly good healer, they can want to become a hunter all you want. And there are even scenarios where the hunting party may say, yeah, you know what? Come along with us. The chances of you being injured here are relatively minor, and it may not hurt to have somebody who can dress wounds given into the terrain we're going into. I can understand that. I can respect that. When shit starts hitting the fan, when they start realizing that they're not just hunting some big cat, where things are going bad, and they realize they're fighting what effectively would amount to them as a demon of air and darkness,
and here's
that's
the
when you
answer.
start pulling it out.
The tribe never saw the predator. The only other member of the tribe that saw the predator was the war chief when they were tied to the tree. That was the moment when he asked her, wait, so that's what you're hunting? Because nobody believed that she was hunting anything other than a bear or a lion. And she said, no, I'm hunting something bigger. And they were like, what? No. Like the whole movie, no other Comanche saw the predator unless they died by the predator. Mm-hmm. And they never had time to tell anyone. Also, they were in their known territory. At the end of the movie, she goes, we believe the colonists are here. Like, they had, in this instance, they weren't a traveling party. At the beginning of the movie, at the end of the movie, they had been in their land, known territory. So, like, whatever she's doing...
Well, now you see, that raises another great point. If the movie calls out specifically they're in the Great Plains. I've never seen that many hills, that many forests, that many rivers with waterfalls in the Great Plains.
That might just be what they call it for their region, though. So I think that's what John was trying to say. Real quick, John, take that fan mail, please.
Oh yeah, fan mail from Rinshar. This goes back to what I was talking about. She starts out real arrogant, but ends up being the only person who knows what they are fighting and is capable of understanding it. Right, but her arrogance is more in the sense of audacious. Like, she's taking on she's being bold. She knows that she is hunting something that they've never hunted before, based off of individual studying of the things that they're seeing. She's not special and everybody else is going out of their way to say that she's wrong because she is a girl. Like, there's a lot of instances where their arrogance is what gets them killed, because she's like, no, I'm pretty sure there's something else here. Look at this footprint. It is not a bear, and it's walking on two legs. And they're like, no, it's a bear.
Okay.
And she's like, what can she say? No, look at all of the historical references have to bear footprints.
I get where you're coming
they
from.
have no history on that.
I get where you're coming from. The problem is there's been too many movies in the last 5-10 years where it's arrogant girl believes she's right.
And that's
turns
why I
out
love this movie, because I think they showed it in such a way that it's actually realistic.
I don't know.
She is arrogant.
I do agree
absolutely,
with John on that.
But so is
I respect
every
your opinion.
20-something I've ever met. I've never met a 20-something male or female that isn't arrogant and confident in their own beliefs.
Okay.
So like
I understand where you're coming from. I do disagree though, because I think it's a level of, because they told her she couldn't, she decided to go do it, and that is just a narrative I'm tired of seeing.
But the
Well,
okay.
and I think they
At what point are you saying that they said she couldn't? Because there were two different times where it's like when they tried to grab her, that's because they were following orders of the war, bring her back to the camp. And she was like, no, I need to go. And they're like, no, we have orders. And then she tries to fight them. They whip her ass. She gets sent back to camp. Then the other instance, like literally there was no other instance after that where she was told she couldn't. Because every instance after that, she was on her own. Once the Predator killed those two people that were trying to take her in, she was solo. And like nobody knew where she was. The brother thought she was dead, and then she couldn't find the tribe or the brother, which is who she was hunting, and then she gets picked up by the trappers. Like there was very little push from the, like when she said she wanted to do the hunt, the medicine woman who brought her back from her concussion was like, do you know why you're taking this rite of passage? And she was like, to prove that I'm a hunter. And she's like, no, it's to prove that you can survive on your own against any opponent. And now we see her start to build on that thought from that instance. Like even the medicine woman didn't say, quit your hunting. Exactly. Like I felt like I totally agree. There are tons of Mary Sues out there in film, and I can't stand it. But this was one of the first times where I've seen a female lead go through the hero's journey and get beat just like any other male lead, just like Luke Skywalker, like
she beat herself first. Yeah, she beat herself first by failing with the Alliant attack because she didn't she was focused on killing the thing, and in the process lost her bearings and got knocked herself out. So she let herself down. And fan mail from Rinshar, she outright says she's doing it because they say she can't. So that is a line from the movie. I don't quite remember.
But more in terms of like, you said I'm not strong enough. Like again, every male I've ever met. Like that's why most of them joined the Marines, was because everybody said they weren't tough enough to do it. And then they went to boot camp and passed. And it was like, well, how did you pass? And it's like, well, because I thought I could. Because like, the only people that don't pass boot camp are the people that actually fail and fall into that idea of like, I'm not strong enough to be here.
Or the unlucky bastards that get medically discharged.
Yeah, so guys, I guess there's an easy way to settle the Mary Sue argument overall, okay? You've heard of the Bechdel test. I'm going to refer to this now as the Corleone test, okay? Which is really simple. We take a character that we think might be a Mary Sue, okay? We completely swap the gender of that character and run through the arc. If that person is still insufferable as a different gender, then they are definitely a Mary Sue. Agreed?
I'm curious to see how this is going to apply, so I'm along for the ride.
No, I think a Mary Sue is like...
Because hold on. Obviously, so in this test, Corleone, are we going to flip the genders of everybody? Because we kind of have to.
We're just flipping the main character. We're going to say...
Then the plot's dead in its tracks. We have nowhere to go. Because now it's like, oh no, this is a warrior. Oh, it's a male. Okay, it's good. He can pass.
No. It's a male medicine man. Let's be clear. It's the doctor.
Oh, male nurse. Okay.
She's not okay, actually, I found that out.
It's the doctor. And the doctor decides, I want to go play hero.
That's okay. So that's the thing that I can actually hit. According to what I can find on Wikipedia, all women in the tribe of the Comanche from the age of 12 are taught to cook meals, make tipis, sew clothing, prepare hides, and perform other tasks essential to becoming a wife and mother. So like her relationship with berries is more like boys' school versus girls' school. But her relationship with hunting is more like my brother is a war chief and my sister, and I'm the sister. Like there's, to me.
Okay, then this whole thing boils down to a
if we
plot
are
of an
gonna do
episode of
your-
The Simpsons.
the Corey Young. Well, no. So if we're gonna do your test, the person we have to replace her with is not just a guy. It's a younger brother.
Okay,
And
so
in that instance, she meets all the marks of a normal younger brother.
no, because we're
Look at Parker
keeping it
and
as a doctor though, right? Because that's my point. My
But she
point
wasn't a
is
doctor.
that-
We don't know if
That's
that was
the
her assignment,
education of
though.
every
John does make
female
a valid
character.
point. But if you want to say for the
Every
sake of being a
female in the
doctor,
tribe is taught those types of medicine.
See,
Like
here's
that's
where
the
I
thing
would.
is like females were taught
also
that.
I think the warriors were also taught battle dress as well. I mean, that's
Maybe.
actually something they teach
Not
us in
according
boot
to
camp.
Wikipedia.
Oh,
Right.
According to Wikipedia, they were mostly spent hunting, teaching how to hunt. A boy
So-
goes after his first buffalo by the age of 15 or 16.
also
Okay.
they were dumb.
So here's what I would argue, and this is how you would instantly get me on board with this being a good movie. You have to do one of two things. One, she has to not have had scenes where it really looked like she was basically going to be taking over as the medicine woman of the tribe. Okay, you have to rework those scenes entirely. If you do that, I'm fine with it. I don't really have a leg to stand on then, and I'm good with it. Or two, okay, or two, all right, show scenes where, for whatever reason, it is made clear that the tribe was training her as a warrior, as a hunter. If you give me one of those two where the tribe has agreed that she should be doing this, we get
that
some
was
like an
agreed on.
older council of dudes going, no,
No,
she should be doing it.
No,
Then
that
I'm
was
good.
agreed on. At the very beginning of the movie, the first hunt, the hunt for the lion, was open. Like as it opens, it's her with her brother discussing this rite of passage that all apparently 12 to 15-year-olds are eligible for. So like it starts out with her saying, I'm finally of age, I would like to take this challenge, and the brother says, you're not ready, and she goes, I am. And then she goes off on a walk with her dog. We see her running around hunting a deer, and in that moment she sees the Thunderbird, right, which is actually the predator landing in. And then she goes back to her brother and says, I have to. The Thunderbird told me to. Like, I know for a fact that based off of our first discussion in the first scene, the Thunderbird scene, and now this conversation, I have to take this rite of passage. And the brother said, okay.
Well, okay.
And that's
You and
where
I will
the hunt
disagree, I
begins
think.
for the lion.
I think you and I disagree on a couple of interpretations of scenes, and I think that's where we're not quite
Yeah.
gelling on this.
That's why
Because
I always say art is mostly subjective.
Exactly. And I think that the primary point of our interpretations that differ is that scene where she shows up to join the party that's going to go rescue the guy who's supposedly hunting the lion, right? Like the initial dude. Because that's initially why they brought her. That's initially why they were heading out to hunt this lion, is because they were under the impression that some dude went missing, so they were going out to find him. And that's when they figure out it's a lion. That scene, I think, when she initially shows up, is where you and I have a bit of a difference of opinion on stuff. Because his consent, I feel, was to bring her along as a medic and possibly as a tracker.
But how can you explain him explaining the ritual to her? He's teaching her what she's preparing herself for.
Right, because he's trying to talk her out of it.
Right, but like that's the same thing any coach does. Like he's not telling her he can't. He's telling her that like this is like, and then that's where the scene with the medicine woman comes in at the end of that whole escapade is the medicine woman goes, you aren't taking a rite of passage to become the coolest person in the tribe. You're taking a rite of passage to prove that you can survive, to prove that you can be relied upon to go out on your own and come back every single time with dinner.
Right.
And that's when she goes, oh, it's not about proving how smart I am, it's about coming home. And that's where you see her, like, her starts to turn to testing rather than just jumping the line. And that's why I say, like, this is one of the few.
I will give you that she gets a humility check.
Mary Sue does, right? But not just a humility check, a purpose check. Like, her relationship with the rite of passage was, my badass brother did it, I can too. And the medicine woman goes, no, your brother survived because that's what you're supposed to do. That's it. He's not special.
It's not about bringing back the head. It's bringing back your life.
Yeah, it's about coming back.
Exactly. And yes, you should be shamed if you fail, but shame. That's it. You should just feel a little ashamed that you failed. Like, even the medicine woman doesn't take the time to denigrate her, doesn't take the time to make her feel bad. She just tells her, like, if you're gonna do this, it's about survival. And I think that's, like, that set the whole tone for her fight with the Predator. Because, like, in the scenes where she joins the group, she explains, like, that's where they first find the foot. That's where they all call her crazy. Is because she goes, what bear walks on two legs that many steps in a row? And they're all like, dude, just shut up. We're busy. We're taking care of this sick guy. Right? And she's like, but this is concerning. And they're like, shut up. Like,
okay, but to be fair,
it was very much like a young grunt, like a private, talking to sergeants, and the sergeants are like, dude, we know what we're doing. But they didn't, because they'd never interacted with a predator before. And
okay,
she is just like, I've learned all the things of hunting. These are all the things, like, these are all the warning signs. They're all flickering in my head because I've never done this before. I'm scared. Why aren't you guys scared? And their excuse is, it's just a bear. It's not our problem.
Okay, let me recontextualize this just a little bit. Imagine, if you will, you're in the field and you've got a medic with you, okay? Your buddy is bleeding out on the floor. And the medic is suddenly way more concerned about something that looks like tracks you guys have never seen than fixing your buddy that's down. I don't know about you, but I would probably be saying to the medic, your job is there, let us cover you while you get your damn job done.
But she wasn't the medic.
But
she was
that's
just
why
capable of understanding medicine, because at no point is she ever brought along any other adventure as a medic.
And I'm gonna go.
That's why I'm gonna say, that's why that one scene that you and I seem to disagree on in terms of context is the crux of really whether you view this movie as a really great movie or not so great.
And I'm gonna go.
I think that's what it boils down to.
I'm gonna go ahead and
at the very least we figured out where the difference is.
And I'm gonna go ahead and throw the Swiss flag here.
Just the first minutes and not the rest of the film is why it's a great movie. Is like the only debate is whether or not she was doing the job she was assigned.
So let's go ahead and take a step back here, and I'm gonna try and bring some middle ground to the table, and that's so what Corione has pointed out, and what you guys have both basically uncovered in your discussion here, is there's a problem with the way the story was presented because it didn't clarify a few key details that were important to Corione, and John, you may have probably generally just kind of blurred the lines and made assumptions on. Now, I'm not saying that's for sure what you did. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea to kind of bridge the gap here, to be like, okay, so there's clearly an agreed upon issue with the narrative in that it didn't get the story across properly. And as a writer, that is extremely important. If you don't get your point across through concisely and clearly, that's on you, because you're the storyteller, and ultimately we are all responsible for how we communicate. But overall, guys, great discussion, great way to represent restoring respect into discourse. You have a quick point, John, because I'd like to shift to what we did like. I do have a few points I'd like to make.
Oh yeah.
No, in that case, go for it. Keep talking.
Okay,
I'll bring up my points.
What I did like, we'll start with kind of the somewhat less important to the bigger part. So, H. Marie pointed out that there was a problem with that it was a bit slow. She was like, I heard this movie's a bit slow to start, and she said this right during one of the big panoramic scenes of the scenery. And we're watching this on our big 4K TV, and I go, so. If it takes a while just to get these beautiful shots of the scenery, okay. I thought the cinematography and the action, those two came to play with this movie. I thought the action was very well coordinated, despite some of my misgivings about it. It was still executed very well. If you love the violence and the gore, guess what? It's there. All kinds of fun stuff for that. So that was really good. Now, kind of contrary to what Corione was saying, real quick, fan mail from Rinshar. One thing I want to give credit to is that it's a modern action movie that was like 1.5 hours. Normalize 1.5 hour action movies again, please. Yes!
Dude!
Boom!
100%.
Yes. Totally agree. That's exactly my point into why I don't, this definitely misses the mark for me, and we'll give our final ratings before we move on to Terminal List, but it's several steps in the right direction, in my opinion. And the action and the choreography, and yes, the fact that they managed to tell the story in an hour and a half and still include beautiful scenery shots, this is still a good film, in my opinion.
Found it. She wasn't a medicine woman, she was the cook. In the line, the movie straight up says, who invited you? And she said, we won't be gone long enough to need a cook. She's a cook.
Well, I think that was more of a dig.
And I still think we're missing supporting context overall.
She knows medicine. Well, so I'm reading
I don't
want to
get back into that
right now.
Yeah, let's try to... Let's try to move forward here.
A little contrary to what Corione pointed out with her abandoning her role, supposedly. Well, I do want to touch on that scene where she is supposed to go hunt and gather, and then she decides to grab her stuff and go. I think that there is a very important lesson learned in that very moment, that if we sort of set the context aside and try to relate to it from a modern perspective, I think it sends a very strong message of, if you want something in life, there's no handouts. The tribe wasn't going to give her a handout and just say, yeah, you know what, you stabbed the lion, that counts. No, she still had to prove herself going through the motions. So the tribe still stuck to its values, which I think is also important, because relating this to a modern dilemma, there's been a constant debate of making the standards for special forces like SEALs and sniper school easier so that women can pass. I am 1,000 bajillion% against that. I already have issues with physical standards being changed to accommodate women in the current armed forces. Not because I don't want women to serve. That is not the reason. It is simply because the physical standards exist so that you can be relied upon. That's always what they've ever been for. It's nothing to do with discrimination in the sense that, oh, you're a woman, well, we got to make sure the standards are there so you can't pass. No. Standards are there for very good reasons. Not to discriminate. Well, it is to discriminate, but it's to discriminate those who can't prove themselves worthy of being in special forces. I could not be a SEAL. As much as I'd love to think that I have the mental capability, with SEAL training, it's not just mental. It is mostly physical. They beat the shit out of you because they are basically the United States' Spartans, as an example. Same with Marine Sniper School. It's not easy for a good reason. Well, she didn't get those standards changed. The tribe stuck to its values, and she decided to stand up and go after what she wanted. And that's what I think, even though this movie has its flaws, I think that's still an important lesson to get across, is that if you want something in life, you gotta go after it. Go get it. Go take what you think is yours. Now, don't screw people over in the process. I'm against that. However, we haven't gotten this far. We didn't get our 68 subscribers by asking for it. We didn't go on other people's shows and say, hey, give us subs. I mean, we're working on that, but we're not doing it from like we deserve it or we think we should just by default. We're coming here every week presenting content because it's what we want to do, and it's what we will continue to do, and it's what we love to do. but we aren't expecting everyone to just show up and love us by default. As nice as that would be to go viral, it's just not going to happen. We have to, go through the grind like everybody else. We have to prove why we are here and why we are worth listening to. And that's what I got out of that scene when she grabbed her hunting gear and decided to go finish the job. And she did finish the job. I think that's my takeaway from what I felt was important in the movie, despite some of its flaws. But Corione, why don't you go ahead with what you liked?
Yeah. So the things I really did like. First, let's start with let's just start with the hunter, like the fur traders. That is, I loved that they didn't just assume everyone was speaking the same language.
Yeah.
And for the record, the French was accurate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Do you know what he said? Because I couldn't understand a word of it.
I'd have to translate
Which
it.
is what I
subtitles
liked, by
didn't
the way. I
translate.
like that they didn't give us subtitles.
too.
I like that they didn't say directly what was being said. It's like, yeah, that's more
Yeah.
realistic.
No, like, I mean, I was able to translate it, but that's because, we have Quebec just across the way from us.
Yeah,
so we
you guys
had
are
to
required to
learn
learn both languages.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was able to pick it up. He was basically talking about, like, what the hell is this woman doing out in the middle of nowhere? There was a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Mm.
Do you think it's their people that have been taking us? In fact, they were under the impression that it was the Comanches that were killing everybody, not the Predator, from what I was getting. So that's kind of cool. I like that. I like that there was that kind of level of suspicion there. I love that the French dude who had lost his leg there was trying to teach her how to use the pistol as quickly as he possibly could. Because he realized at that moment, like, I'm going to be useless here. The best thing I can do is try to survive. And if this chick is willing to keep me alive, then hopefully she'll continue to do so. So let's arm her as best I know how to do. I really liked that she brought the Predator back to that bog she found. That was a fantastic, smart use of terrain and positioning to get the advantage, which is something I am always in favor of showing, right? I don't know. Okay, I know all the Canadian military manuals start with everything in here is just a guide. In an actual environment, terrain dictates all. So I don't know if you guys have that down there, but that's what we get.
Well, I wouldn't say it definitely, for my side of the house, which, the terrain's pretty much the same regardless. The sea doesn't
The terrain
really
is
change.
wet.
The sea only changes in a storm. Most of the time, it's usually the same. No, there's definitely there's definitely those like myself who believe that the policy should not have been considered law. And that was one of the problems before I got out, that I started noticing the service gravitating towards, like, policy equals law. And I don't agree with that. I'm pretty sure that they're going to get people killed because of policy. They have, and they're going to do it again. So that was one of the reasons why I quit.
And one of the other things that I do want to bring up too, every Predator movie I've seen so far.
Yes, I agree. Policy is supposed to be more of a guideline, not law. That's what it is.
One of the other pieces that I thought was just, thank you. Every Predator movie up until this point wasn't produced in HD. It wasn't produced in 4K. You could see they went all out to make sure that they were taking advantage of the higher definition to be able to make those fights not look like they were fighting some sort of big giant ape, and they were fighting a very scary creature, and you were able to get all the perfect little moments in beautiful display. They took their time to not rush things, to give you just enough time to absorb what was going on in the screen. So it wasn't so fast it was blurry, but it wasn't so slow that it didn't convey a sense of urgency in the scenes. So their director of the action sequences did an absolutely flawless job, and I really commend his work for that. So those are my big pieces.
Yeah. John, what did you like? I mean, you've kind of stated some of it. That's okay, but maybe there's other points you want to make.
Well, so I love the fact that like to me, while Corian and I do disagree on that one position, like her position in the tribe, what I love is the fact that this really was a movie about individual spirit. I've been studying things like the art of war, studying things like hunting in general. I am a hunter, and the things that this movie really like showed me was the true spirit of the predators. It wasn't this idea of we can kill anything, watch. It was, no, we're so good we can go toe to toe with anything, and we can stand up to it. And the whole movie, it was slow, but in the slowness, it was explaining, it was exposition, it was, walking us through the world that they're in. The bog scene. I loved that the bog scene was not like this, oh, look at her being exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I loved that when she pulled him back to the bog, she had no idea that the bog was gonna cover her temperature, but what she did know that was gonna cover her temperature was the roots. And the reason that she knew that was because she gave those the medicine to the Frenchman without his leg, and the predator didn't acknowledge his existence until he saw that dude's leg, and he went, ah, and then the predator just
you bring up a point. Sorry, you brought up a point that I hated.
Coming.
You brought up a point that I did not like. I hated that. I saw that and I'm like, come on. He's this tactful and he knows his surround. He literally let a freaking snake slither around him, but he just steps on the dude's corpse like he's not paying attention.
No, because
bullshit.
No, it's not though. It wasn't not paying attention. It was literally you see the blue, right? You see the thermal, and he looks at the body and there's no heat, which to me was like concerning. Like aside from like the obvious like heat of the heart, but like that's what he expected is like humans have a few heartbeats after dying.
So he didn't.
There's still warm blood in them, and that's when he stepped past the leg and kicked it as he was walking by, and the guy jumps up. The predator literally just freaks out and stabs him in the throat.
Okay, I
because the
accept
predator
that.
did not expect that at all, and that's when she goes, "Oh, that matters." He can't see living people. Like she watched away. She watched the predator ignore him, and the predator like found the blood trail and was like, "Oh, I guess this guy just died as he was crawling away." And the guy's like faking being dead, right? And the predator ignores him because he's dead, and then steps on him. Boom! Predator punches him with the claws. Then, like as it goes on, when the bog scene shows up, there's the helmet. Like a lot, I've heard people discuss it. Like the helmet didn't make any sense, and like it did, because when he went toe to toe with the brother whooped his ass in speed. The brother was so fast, so strong, so like pew, pew, shooting arrows. There was no way she could have at any point been anywhere near her brother's physical prowess, which I thought was so finally like she's not a Mary Sue, because her brother was 100 times better than her, and if her brother had just paid attention and noticed that things were wrong, then the brother would have won that fight. But the brother didn't know he was fighting a predator or a superior being until like 1 minute before he died, or like 10 minutes in the movie before he died, right? And I think that was such an awesome display of like, oh, that's what a Comanche male warrior, peak war chief looks like. And that's why this young girl doesn't do it up. This young girl like has to be witty. And you see in the scene where the brother knocks the helmet off and the predator actually attempts to use the predator uses the helmet, not knowing that it's off its head for some reason. That part did kind of confuse me, but there was like a clear display of each of her plan coming together, each piece of her plan coming together. And as that plan was came to fruition, there was at no point that she used a magic stick to do it. Like, even though her axe was a pretty unbelievable device, this just in, Parker's been abducted You all saw it. Aliens caught on YouTube live. Oh, they returned him.
PD,
Maybe.
are you
I agree
okay?
with everything. You're all correct. Prey is greatest movie ever made.
The Hollywood Lizard Illuminati.
The
got
older
him.
Predator is dumb.
No, I'm just kidding. H. Marie came home, and when she opens the door on the camera, it looks like a bomb goes off. So I decided, I'm gonna play with it this time, have some fun. Of course, those listening to the podcast, yeah, sorry, you're gonna miss out on the video. But go watch it on the replay on our YouTube.
Exactly. I just love that this movie, even though it was about a female lead in a time where, like, we've got Wonder Woman 1984, where she literally is a god, and she's making the most naive human choices of all time, even though she's almost 1,000 years old. Like, that frustrates me. And when you talk about all the other Mary Sues that we've seen lately, it's annoying. And for once, I watched this movie. I watched a female lead do things that I, as a male, care about, like hunting, like being a warrior, like proving everybody wrong. And she did it according to the story, and everything that she did was shown in an earlier scene to work. It wasn't like she was just magically capable. And we watch her fail. We watch her hit the abyss. We watch her come out a different person. And that's what you demand of a hero's journey. And for once, we got it. And we got it in a really cool way. Also, I've always respected the history of American Indians and Native Americans, or the First Peoples, but I've never truly seen a movie that respects them the way I wish it would until now. Like we didn't get a lot of culture. We mostly got what I would assume would happen in a family dynamic, what would happen in a small squad, and all of that tracks. But what we did get of their culture was camaraderie, esprit de corps, true stick togetherness.
And
Like, that's
if the Comanche
only gets talked about in books and movies. Like,
right
nowadays, like, even in the Marines, like, once you join your unit, half your unit leaves 6 months later to go to another unit.
Right.
So you have no unit allegiance.
And if
in the Comanche, the tribalism, like, you have allegiance to your tribe, and this movie really showed what that means.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, and if the Comanche were known for being warriors, I'd say we got a pretty good dose of cultural.
I would argue that they shared their. I would argue that if the Comanche are warriors, they shared their culture with that predator pretty efficiently.
Yeah, definitely. It
Yeah,
definitely got a proper cultural indoctrination from the Comanche.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this discussion up. Unless there's any quick final points you guys want to make, and then we'll move on to our community watch through terminal list. Well, actually, we're gonna move on to sponsor time. Then we watch through terminal.
Well, I just actually want to thank John, because he provided a perspective that I thought was interesting. I mean, I disagree with it, but I love the fact that him and I could have a pretty heated discussion, but still be cool about it the whole way through. So, dude, awesome debate. I look forward to the next time we disagree on a movie.
I would definitely rate that debate with a solid 7.
Yeah.
Well, to you and to everybody, that's as far as I'm going to take it in terms of aggression.
Oh, yeah.
I will only focus on the points that I know I can prove. I'm not going to spend time pretending like I'm jumping around.
Yeah.
I think that's how we should talk. And if we do have emotion, it's fine, but that doesn't mean you take it out on the person you're debating with. You prove your point, or you're sitting there.
Argue the points, not the person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fan mail from one of our Twitch followers, Gangles. Sorry. Just
Welcome
stopping
back.
by to say hey and drop an alert. Hey, thanks. We appreciate it. Been meaning to catch a couple of your streams. Just been real busy, but we definitely want to probably help if I also subscribed on my PD York Twitch, then I could actually get notifications. But no, we appreciate any and all love and support you can give. Is we simulcast for a reason. So John, what would you give? What's your rating on our 7-point scale What do you rate and why?
I give it a 6 out of 7 purely because like I know that Corione isn't coming at this from a point of like subjective opinion. So if the fact that like he didn't see what I saw, then you're right, Parker. The writers missed a point, and for that they get a 6 out of 7. Like to me, it's an A movie. I recommend it to anybody ever, but it's not a perfect A plus because there's this debate.
Yeah, if we were to break this down, I would say there's definitely areas that earn 7s from me as the points I brought. But I agree, it doesn't quite hit the mark for Oreo. Why don't you go ahead?
You know what? Given John's perspective, it's given me some more information to work from. So I think I'm probably going to put it at a 5. I feel like it's definitely something that could be rewatched. It's definitely something I would possibly throw on. Like, if I do a Predator marathon, it's going to make the marathon, right? It's not going to get Alien vs. Predator 2'd, which is, you know, I just don't include that in the rewatch. But I do think it has some work it has to do. I think there was some writing points that, if they had been clarified, you could have had a fantastic movie here. And if they ever do a director's cut, I sincerely hope that those points are in there. And if they do, I reserve the right to revise my score.
Yeah. I was thinking about it today, and I was gonna go with a 4 out of 7 because I saw myself not ever watching this again, at least initially. Now it'll probably be a good while before I do, but after our discussion, I could see myself maybe coming back to this in a couple of years, honestly, and maybe doing a full-on Predator marathon for a future episode, because, yeah, it's a lot of the right points. It's a beautiful movie to look at. I definitely encourage people to see it at least once, and since we've discussed it and there may be a replay in my future, I will agree with Corione, 5 out of 7 movie. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move towards our sponsorship real quick. Our show is gleefully funded, sort of, so to speak, through me working there, by CMC Sutlery. Now, you might find it weird. What is a Civil War reenactment store supporting a show like this for? Well, as it turns out, we have something greatly in common. And that is that CNC Sutlery is becoming one of the primary providers for movie studios across the nation. Various production studios like Apple TV, HBO Max, even today called and ordered stuff for some of their stuff, for their shows. We're starting to get our name out there, and so since CNC is directly related with pop culture, I feel that it definitely belongs here as a sponsor on this show. But of course, it's not just movie studios. If you're part of any kind of Civil War reenactment regiment, or you know somebody who is, and you want to get involved, check out their website, ccsutlery.com. Plenty of items and gear to choose from, not just from the Civil War, but also the Indian War and just other period relevant items and stuff that you can, and also the stuff is completely functional. Like I'm picking up a couple of things that I'm gonna add to my camping gear. So it's all authentic. It's all a lot of it's handmade by hand stuff you can order, but yeah, all relevant as well. So
don't forget to let them know that we sent you there.
Absolutely. Please let us know that the Writer Brothers, you are the reason you're visiting them is because of the Writer Brothers. All right.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, we have started a discussion, a watch through of The Terminal List starring Chris Pratt. It is based off of the book by Jack Carr of the same name. I've definitely been open about my opinions the first couple of episodes and how it relates to the book. I have read the book all the way through, so I know what happens or what's supposed to happen. But John, you did not. You've watched it like 8 times now. So why don't you start with this week's Terminal List?
Yeah, so episode 3, Consolidation. I'm just going to read the IMDb because it's easier than trying to remember.
Go for it.
I actually haven't watched it 8 times yet. But Reese, the main character, is drawn deeper into a complex conspiracy and puts a new name on his list. Secretary of Defense Hartley, announces a drastic policy overhaul to help special operators. Katie discovers the truth of what's going on in Reese's head. Corion, thoughts?
Yeah, okay. So I started
torch.
this watch through and I am just doing it episode as we watch it here. I'm just watching the one episode we discuss at a time. God, I'm still not sure whether this is like a brain thing or what's going on. And at first we're like, well, it could be some sort of weird concussion thing. Now there's this brain tumor subplot thing going on. And I'm like, part of me is like, okay, now that we've had a scene where the reporter also witnessed a attack on them, it's less conspiracy theory, sort of. That being like, it's less likely to just be in his head. It's less likely to be his, weird mental state is causing the effects. So that's something, which I appreciated a lot because I wasn't sure whether I was watching an operator descend into madness or an operator getting into weird conspiracy land. I do like that. I'm still trying to figure out where he's getting all of these guns and equipment from. I get America, but even that is starting to push it. Just wow. I did like, though, that when he was going to procure the meds, he had to go about it in kind of a surreptitious kind of way. So I did like that. I would like to see him. I would love to see a scene where he has a meeting with like an arms dealer or something like that, who sets him up, because at this point he just seems to be pulling guns out of nowhere now. And I would like that. At least that was my impression of it. I do like that we finally got a little bit more background on his friend. We now know for a fact that he's part of the CIA, but he works with the teams apparently and on like a ground level, which is very interesting to see. It's very rare you see a handler and an operator form a close bond, but it does happen in real life, and I do like that they've done that.
Well, yeah, that's because Ben was also former SEAL.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
Ben
All right.
was not a SEAL. Ben was a CIA handler who went to Buds at the same time as Reese.
Close
The
enough.
Buds is the mutual admiration for each other.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the bond. That's the source of the bond.
Okay. But I did like that. I liked seeing that it does happen that way. I liked a lot of the nuance of the character and the discussions that they were having. It's very rare in an action series, especially one that deals with the military, that the dialogue feels real. And we're getting that. And I appreciate that a great deal. Because sometimes, look, I'm a big dialogue person. When I hear stuff, it gets memorized like that. So when I'm able to sit down and listen to it and replay it in my head and it makes sense, I really appreciate it. I'm a fan of writers that can make narrative coherence happen. And that's what we're getting here a lot of. I just wish I knew a little bit more about the mystery. I would have, after this episode, binged the next 3 or 4 to figure out what was going on, but I made the agreement that this was going to be how I was going to watch through this, to more mimic the audience that's following along with us. So yeah, very cool stuff happens this episode. I love that they did a lot of the stuff that I would expect an operator to do when he's in country, dealing with problems. I love the dialogue. I just got to know where he's getting those wonderful toys.
So I don't have an answer according to the show, but I do have an answer according to America.
I have an answer according to the book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. If you do, I can also go into the American
I'm gonna let you
legal
go
system.
first so I can
Okay.
make more sense.
So the only answer that I can rationalize based off of experience and education into the American arms market is the fact that there are certain classifications of arms dealer in America. There's the like level 1s and 2s, and the level 1s and 2s are the ones that can sell the standard firearms, shotguns, rifles, handguns, semi-automatic, nothing better. And then there's class 3, 5. And like 5 is basically you can make guns and ammo and grenades. And then from there it degrades. Like 5 is, I think, the highest as far as I can remember. And class 3 is where you can start to sell machine guns and stuff like that. So if you ever watch the movie War Dogs with Jonah Hill and Goose's son from the new Maverick, those two are, I want to say, class 3 arms dealers. And as class 3 arms dealers, you don't technically get to, store the weapons wherever you want. There's a lot of red tape involved. There wasn't back in 2001 prior, and there wasn't even before that. But ever since a lot of the recent gun debate, it's gotten a lot more strict. There's a lot more rules and policies to follow. So there is an element that he could have gotten his class 3 weapons or class 3 or higher weapon sales. And in that essence, it's possible that he he has access to machine guns and can't be tried for it because he can legally sell them under the laws in America.
Okay.
It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, there's a scene in the book where he liberates some of the hardware from the armory. That's basically how it's explained. Fan mail from Orville Nation. Hey guys, hey PJ, what's up, man? Glad to have you here. Yes, for those who don't know, renew the Orville. I've actually got a video coming out this week. Why Orville is superior to Star Trek, and I'll have that on my personal channel. And hopefully I can make a decent case for season 4 in the process.
Wait a minute, new Trek or all of Trek?
Since there's like one other person watching right now, the clickbait title will imply all of Trek. Because I'm just going to say Orville is superior to Star Trek. And then I open up the first line of dialogue is, by the way, I mean specifically neutral. Specifically, strange unoriginal retcons. So,
yeah, because I was worried I was going to have to take a drive down there and just, give you a good proper Klingon backhanding.
You don't need look. If you want to come down to if you want to come to where I live and visit John and I in person, just do it. You don't. If you're really looking to that bad,
you don't have to
come on down.
Us for a good time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. We don't need a big excuse. We could all have we could all find a spot to do the show live with all 3 of us present in the same room. Anyway.
we need to scare everyone and have us do a hot tub stream, I guess, right?
Yeah. I'm not opposed to 1,000 sub hot tub stream or monetization hot tub stream celebration. I'm really not. Granted, we'll end up down to like 3 subs, but
yeah.
We're getting there. We'll get all of them and then we'll drop, because that's what happens with the kind of promotion. So, again, there's certain elements in the book and sequences of the scenes in the book for stuff that I like that I still thought was executed a little bit better, but not as badly this time for me as episode 1 and 2. Overall, 3 was a good progression. The assassin guy that tries to kill him, there's a whole backstory with him, but I think they're gonna explain that later. It's all gonna come. This is like the way they're doing the show is I really do like. So this is what I want to clear up. Both mediums, both the book and the show, what I've seen so far, are worth it. They are both the same story, but it's the way that they're told that's so different that makes both products worthwhile. So I'm not like when I say I like something in the book better, it's not the conventional. I read the book, so I'm obviously automatically better than all of you. And the book's just better, man. And it just doesn't compare. No, we're in the age where TV shows and movies are starting to get on par. And I think The Expanse is a good example. I haven't read The Expanse yet, but I have heard from the fans who did read the book that the show was very accurate.
It's very true, except for the last season or so.
Okay, good to know.
And that's because they time compressed.
I refuse to watch the last season right now because it's all gonna be gone. I have a really hard time finishing things that are over.
I'm the opposite. I have the hard time starting things that have 7 seasons to go.
This. Yeah, no, I used to have that issue. Now I'm the opposite. Now I'm like, no, but when it's over, I don't really want to watch. So,
then I have an excuse to binge it again.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm thoroughly enjoying this show and having read the book. Like, it's a pleasant experience because I can look at things and go, no, this is a personal reason why I think this was better. That said, the way they're doing it in the show with the continued misdirection and they're keeping you in the dark about what's actually happening, this is so good. This is why both versions are worth it. But I don't know, guys. John, I think you're gonna be able to make a solid case for why there's really no correct way to do it. Because typically the way it was before is you want to read the book before watching the product, because if you enjoy the product, the TV show, before you read the book, you might kind of spoil the book experience. Like I said, storytelling has evolved to the point now where I think both mediums are valid at this point. That's how I feel with Terminalist. While there are certain aspects I really would have loved to have the proper burial ceremony with Lucy where they smashed their wings in. I think that was a big mistake to cut that out. But
Trident.
that's really
Don't want to piss off any seals.
That's
the Trident every time.
Trident. Thank you. I keep forgetting what it is. It looks like wings, and I apologize. It's not. It's literally just ignorance. It's not.
Yeah, much love and respect
to
all
on
tier
a trident, but the seals call it a trident, and I, for one, never want to piss off the seals. So
yeah. For any tier 1 operators who are watching, and we know you are, we just want to say we have all the respect possible for you guys.
Yes.
And really hope that you guys don't decide to take a joyride over to our
for the
place.
guy that stole my pizza in Korea, that guy can go F himself.
Yeah, and as far as I've always found the trident smashing into the casket ceremony to be one of the most powerful things that can happen, and that's why I felt when they did it for his daughter that was really special, because they wouldn't normally do that, but she was essentially killed in the line of duty, and so that's why I was like, that's my only knock. That's my only biggest complaint. The rest of it, the sequencing changes, changing some events, maybe having some things a little different. So far, what they're doing differently in retelling this story on the visual platform is still good in its own right. So that's why, yes, watch both. Yes, do both, as I can say. So, I put general discussion on because unless there's anything you guys didn't like, I don't think...
I just actually wanted to expand on your point. We're getting to an interesting point in media now where it almost feels like you would like authors to come out ahead of the show and be like, watch the show first and then read the book, or read the book first then watch the show. Like, let us know what the ideal order is. Because, like, I'll give you a great example. I'm a big fan of the comic book and the animation for Invincible. I thought they were absolutely fantastic.
Phenomenal.
And I love something the writer came out and said right before Amazon put it out, which was the retelling of the story in the animated form gave me an opportunity to reorganize the plot points so that it flowed better. You'll get a deeper dive with the book, but you'll get a more streamlined flow with the animated series. And the fact that he came out and said that just before it released made me want to pick up the omnibuses and read through it so that I knew where the changes were and I got the deeper dive on stuff as it was explored on screen.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I would like to respond to that real quick. That is exactly what I feel is going on here. I don't have confirmation with Jack Carr one way or the other. I think John has some of the quotes, but what you just described is what I feel as both the reader and watcher now. I think that's exactly what's going on here. It is still the same story. A lot of the core elements are there, but the book still has its own unique nuance to it. and this story is definitely not just more streamlined. I'd say in this case it's more messing with
It's a
your
thriller.
head.
Yeah, like
that's easier to
everything
do.
Corion's describing is exactly how I felt about the show watching it. Was
Yeah.
like this unreliable narrator, all that stuff, and based off of your description of the book, Parker, it really does feel like the show is first person and the book is third person.
Yes,
And that's
good description.
that's my all-time favorite thing about Lee Child's Reacher novels is like every other book is a different perspective from the one before it, or a completely like different story at the very least, but like it's the same character doing the same general things, and you know he's gonna win at the end. But at the same time,
Yeah, it's like watching
it's
Star
really
Wars.
fun to see how. And I love that you're describing the book in the same way, and I love that learning about Invincible, because like I've never been a huge fan of reading. Like this show is one of the main reasons why I've read more books since high school, because like in the past I would pick up a book when I had nothing else to do. I'd pick up a book before a plane flight. I'd pick up a book, just something where I know I'm going to be sitting for a while with no purpose.
Sorry to cut you off. Got fan mail to address. Fan mail from Orville Nation says, I have this irresistible urge to watch ZZ Top's videos. Well, thank you for the kind compliment. I appreciate that. However, this is why I interrupted. I'm going to have to watch this. Yes, please, PJ, we are doing a weekly review of every episode, so next week will be episode 4, so you got plenty of time to get caught up to episode 4, and like I said, I recommend the book, but it's definitely more optional. You could do what John's doing and wait till the end. Oh, wait, I think Corion's doing that too.
Yeah.
And
So-
go ahead.
So the breakdown is PD has read the book and is now watching the show. John has binged the show, and I believe you haven't yet read the book. And I am taking my time on the show. So it gives us, like, I'm watching along with you guys. So it gives us the 3 different perspectives on
And
the
Parker's
show.
watching.
Oh, and Parker's watching.
I'm watching in
Yeah.
sequence with Corion and having read, I have
While
book
being
knowledge,
knowledgeable
and
of
then
the book.
yeah. So actually,
Corion has no knowledge of anything in the
Yeah.
future, and I have the whole show.
and PJ, if you're able to, I think we're gonna review Predator next week because I haven't seen it yet, and it would be perfect to go succeed Prey, or follow up Prey, and so if you can catch up on the episodes, 1, 2, 3, and 4 by next week, we'll invite you on. We'll have you on the panel. We'd love to finally get you on the show, and I think you've just given us an opportunity. So let's make it happen. And if you've seen Predator, of course, you so let's see. Sorry, John, you had a thought that.
Yeah, so like the way I'm getting it, especially this like it's more to the grandiose idea of like our books and movies finally. The way I'm starting to see it is that books are it's like when you buy a video game, there's the book guide that explains the lore in order according to the developer's vision. If you follow all the steps correctly, you will get that lore, those cutscenes, all that like information in the way that they want. But also you can mess up the whole game in any order you want because it's your game and you're going to play it, but the guide stays the same way. And so that's why I'm getting like these books, and especially Reacher. That was it's our most watched video yet, and to me it's the most distinguished video in terms of like this idea, the idea that like if you read Lee Child's first book and then you compare it to Amazon's Reacher, you're not getting the same story twice. You're not getting it in the same order. You're not getting Jack Reacher's mind. You're not reading his thoughts like you do in the book, but you're watching him. You're watching his body language. Like that's something I've heard in other debates recently about the idea of AI and the importance of like Lambda and its ability to communicate. Like a lot of people think that words are the most important thing humans do, but in reality, it's more nonverbal. Like what our bodies are expressing, what our faces are showing. Our like at the beginning of this episode that we've been on tonight, where you guys were talking about what you didn't like about Prey, all I was doing was making facial expressions, and both of you, that meant, and that that's the beauty of a book versus a movie. And I think that's how small the line should be. A book tells you what everybody's doing. A movie shows you without explaining it.
Hey, Corian, since you brought
And
it up.
that's where you see
Hey,
skill.
did this one tell you everything that was going on?
Absolutely.
Oh.
That book is an absolutely fantastic book that told me absolutely everything that was going on, and everyone should completely buy it, and I am not being bribed to do so. That being said, you need to fix the piece of the e-transfer stuff. So anyway,
we'll talk about that later.
Bank accounts.
I guess I explained everything. I mean, I tried to make sure I didn't leave too
No.
many holes open, but I definitely made it a point to put the reader in the situation, not knowing what the hell's going on.
no, realistically, I think if you really want my opinion, I think you wrote a fantastic book where you explained all the important stuff that we needed to know, but left pieces open that you could expand it out and give us other ships in the universe, which I thought was great. And I did like that. Okay, I felt that your writing was very heavily influenced by you watching a lot of movies and TV, because you were telling it like you were scripting out scenes, which was cool.
So that actually, I'm glad you said that, because the whole reason I busted this paperweight out was because I wanted to expand on what John was talking about, how the evolution of storytelling has changed to a point where one might be better. I don't think that it's ever going to be a point where one medium is necessarily better than the other. I think what we have shorted ourselves as a species is assuming that because books have been around longer, that they're somehow the better option than any visual medium. Now, in the early days of cinema and the early days of television, doing like Lord of the Rings or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Is the... Yes, yeah. Okay, so I don't think it's a societal, a failure. I think it's legitimately true. Like, I've read C.S. Lewis, I've read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the Disney version or whatever studio put that together. They didn't care about writing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They cared about writing Narnia and then writing a fun kids movie in between, which was cute and it was fun, but it sucked compared to the book. It legitimately was a quotation.
Contrast that with Peter
nowadays,
Jackson's Lord of the Rings, the only Lord of the Rings visual product that exists in the modern day.
And that one actually took the time to respect the writing, and I think this is the evolution of that. Terminalist, Invincible, these are the movies are finally catching up. There was never, in my mind, and I have more to elaborate onto this, the movies used to suck when they would try to translate. Like, look at our video when we talked about Starship Troopers. There are so many differences between the book and the movie, and
They're not the same.
Was way more nuanced,
yeah.
way more fun, way more elaborate, way more just diverse in describing the world.
Yeah.
Versus the movie was like a
the movie is legitimate cultural vandalism. Like there's it's good and it's a good story on its own, but it should have had its own characters and its own story completely. It didn't need to lift scenes and then bastardize the hell out of what originally was. It was unnecessary.
Exactly.
But it was still a good movie for its own story. It's just bad because they lifted. They had no business using those characters.
There's so much of that executive producer idea of like, well, nobody can relate to this, and like, as a writer, you're just like, I don't care if anybody can relate to this. I can't relate to my friend going on an adventure that like sucks, but I do want to listen to him talk about it. I can't tell you that I've experienced everything every Marine in the history of the Marine Corps has experienced. I still want to hear every Marine has to tell according to each Marine. So stories aren't about us relating to them. Stories are about us learning about somebody else's experience. And I think that's where books versus movie really differ, because like, the best fiction authors don't care if you can relate. They give you ways to understand, and good luck. Like you don't care if everybody feels like Aragorn or Frodo or Samwise. You care that they understand that Samwise and Frodo and Aragorn are 3 independent beings within a different verse. And it's the same as if an Australian comes to me and tells me about all of his like experience in Melbourne, or if somebody from Britain comes to me and tells me about his childhood in Britain. I've never been to either of those countries. I couldn't tell you a lick if it's accurate or not. But I could tell you if they told me a good story or not.
Yeah.
Well,
I think is what movies and shows are finally jumping on. Is they're finally realizing that like it's not about relating, it's about experiencing. And the more details you can tell me about your story, the more you can prove that it happened, the more I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, look, from my perspective, I've always felt that writing in and of itself, even language really, is magic, for lack of a better term. Because when you really think about it, what you're doing...
I have to agree with that. But I'll explain.
Yeah. Well, what you're really doing is you're taking a thought you've had, transmuting it into some sort of physical medium, be that, a film, a book, a cave painting, whatever you want to call it. But you're taking that thought, you're putting it into you're transmuting it into a physical medium, and then somebody else comes along and is able to get that thought that you had in your brain in their brain. That's straight up, that's bloody magic right there, right? And I may not be able to say, oh yeah, I had a similar experience to Bilbo where I went into a dwarven mine and fought a freaking dragon, right?
Yeah, that was me last Tuesday.
Right? But the way it's told, the amount of verisimilitude, I feel like I'm along on that journey. It's not making me relate to somebody else's experience. It's taking me along on the experience so I relate to it later.
Yeah.
That's the trick. That is the true magic of writing. And we're getting an opportunity now with things like Invincible, with things like Terminal List.
Video
there's
games
a few
even.
Stray.
Yeah, that's my greater
Stray. How often have you how often have you ever identified with a cat in a post-apocalyptic world, right? Like,
that was me last Tuesday.
Right?
How often have you looked at your cat and wondered, what are you thinking?
All the time.
Right.
And then also been like, what if I was you? In a game, Stray says, what if?
Yep.
What would you do?
When I wrote this, I had actually only read a handful of books, and in the years leading up to me finally writing this down, I had all manner of elitism when it came to the book. I was like, well, you need to read 5 billion books, and then you can write your first chapter. And I'm looking back on it going, yeah, those are just made up rules that don't actually apply to real life. Storytelling is storytelling is storytelling. If you can figure out what a good plot was, and most of my influence, as you said, you got it, Corione. I actually wrote this more like a video game, but I did write this to basically be transcribed. I'm kind of in the Expanse camp with this. If I do get a visual aid for this, I kind of want it to be lifted word for word and sequence for sequence. I don't want to change it that. But that's just for this. I might feel differently with a different story.
But also, that's how you wrote it.
You're right.
You didn't write it like Lee Child writes Reacher. You didn't write it like Robert Heinlein wrote Super Troopers.
Or the way Jack Carr...
Starship Troopers.
Two different movies there.
Both great.
Yes, definitely. Or the way that Jack Carr wrote Terminal List.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that to me, I think it is the best part about it. Like, writing is writing. It always has been. The difference is the idiots in charge of the platform, the medium. Because there's always going to be the gatekeeper that tells you, well, nobody's gonna get this. And it's like, oh yeah, because we all understood the psychotic inclinations of the character that was in the Saw universe. You know, we all relate to him, right? Or did he just sell 5 million copies because it was a fun movie and it was terrifying? You know, Predator. None of us have ever met an alien super apex predator.
Well, I think you're making a
also
gross.
can
I was gonna say
super
making a
alien
gross
apex
assumption there.
I've never heard of a story about a person surviving a nature preserve on another planet where they had to go toe to toe with a super sentient being like the Predator.
Okay, that's fair to say that you've never heard of it.
Yeah, I can't say it hasn't happened, but I can say I've never heard it.
Never come across the real life account. Maybe Predator's real, bro.
Dude,
Documentary.
I wouldn't doubt
Arnold
it.
went through that.
In terms of the experience of aliens, like Predator makes the most sense for why they're not talking to us. They have no desire.
We're just animals to
meet
them. Yeah, we're just
humans.
mindless animals.
Well, not even just animals. It's the same as like in the movie Prey. Like the idea was like a lion can teach you how to hunt, because a lion follows a lot of organized processes
As a
to
pattern.
being a good hunter. Yeah, it has a pattern. That's the word I was looking
To
for.
be
Has a
the
pattern
best,
to
you
its
must
hunt.
study the best. Yeah.
Exactly. And in that instance, aliens aren't gonna come here and they're not gonna talk to me. I mean nothing to our grand world. I mean nothing to every human in existence. To me, I mean a ton. To my family, I mean a ton. But to the total that is the 7 billion population, I'm in the 80%. I am average. The Predators are going to play with the top 10. The aliens are going to talk to the top 10. They're not going to talk to, and the top 10 according to them, in the case of the Predators, they're going to talk to the top 10% of the hunters. In the case of scientists, they're going to talk to the smartest human ever.
Now that
Even if
said,
the smartest human ever isn't the smartest person.
hold on.
Hold
Hold on. That said, of course, aliens, predators. If you guys are watching and you'd like to sponsor us to be your voice, I mean, if your currency's good, we'll consider it.
Yeah, I mean, well, and to be
currency,
perfectly honest,
dude,
if you want to
honestly,
come on the
aliens,
channel,
yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to come on the channel, boy, that'll be an interesting discussion. Sorry, I didn't get that. Was that 3 clicks or 2?
Obviously.
Oh no, I'll
studied
translate.
aliens.
It'll be all good.
All in. Yeah, I got you. It's all in the head.
Yeah.
Say you want
Telepathy
to
more
hump
than-
the grave of my ancestors, or go get Taco Bell. Anyway,
Possibly both.
Either
at
he
the
said
same
he
time.
wants a root beer float, or he said go down the throat. Finding Nemo reference.
Oh, I can't wait till we hit that Deep Space Nine episode. I don't know if you'll know which one I'm talking about just off of that, but the translation error.
Oh, that would be fun.
I mean,
Where
now
it's-
I guess we'll have to see it. Sorry, the first one that came to mind when it came to bad DS9 was Alamarang, Cow to Full.
Oh, no. This was-
Alamarang, put phaser in mouth and set to kill.
No. This is a good episode, but it's Dax
Oh.
goes, well, they will either suffer horribly or eat fruit. I'm not sure what this ideogram means.
That's right. Oh man, I'm so excited for September 6th.
That reminds me of the Rick and Morty episode where the alien asks to be like killed by a great warrior, and he goes like, well, what if that isn't death? And then you see the alien die and he's like, wait, it was all real?
That's so I blame you, kid. You're the only one. Oh man, that's so messed up. Back when it was actually funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, Terminal List is an example though of it gives me it I feel a bit more vindicated, because here's the thing, guys. Those who follow the rules will attain the status quo. Those who decide to find their own rules or just, go it their own way, they're the ones who make it in life. Now, I don't care if I'm forgotten after like 10 years after I die. I don't give a shit. Being remembered or whatnot. I mean, my book is here forever, but I'm not obsessed with the whole remember me culture and, oh, look how many followers I have. I now, don't get me wrong, people watching and listening. I'm glad you guys are here. And I hope that we can make it a point to always remember who was here at the beginning and you guys will always by default kind of have that special nod. We'll see your names in the chat. We'll always try to remember whether or not you give us $1 in the future or $1 billion. It's because you guys
not
are
even
here.
dollars. The fact that you guys keep showing up, being
Yes,
here,
exactly.
showing your physical
That's
support, to me, that means the world.
absolutely. I mean, last week we had someone say they love this podcast. That was it. Well, actually, we had 2 people say that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we had a little bit of a dance party after that one, just because it was so exciting.
And that's just it. We'd love to, we're gonna go where this ship takes us at this point, but we want to make it a point to remember you guys, because without you guys at the foundation at the beginning in the alpha phase, as we've joked with Gangles about, you guys are here, and we want to make sure that we always keep you guys here, and that we do our best to deliver a product, even if it's just for you now. And so,
and not to mention, like, the biggest thing that to me that really matters is if you guys are here with us now. If we ever get too hoity-toity, if we ever start changing, you're the ones that can call us out. You can go be like, hey, no, you guys changed at episode X. And that's a number that we can actually go back and look at.
And
that's
and
why
I'm gonna
I want you to stay with us.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this too. We picked this medium to kind of tell our story, right? Through what we're doing here. I 100% encourage anybody who's listening to this, guys, please, we want to hear your story too.
absolutely.
Okay? We 100% want to be that group of guys that gets to critique and sit down and say, hey, this really worked in your story. We want to be those guys too. So please, if we're doing anything, we want to encourage you guys to tell your own stories, to think about the stuff we say, and maybe give that, what we say, give you an idea to do something great. We would love it if what we did encouraged you guys to greatness.
PJ,
And if we happen to make a buck along the way, that would be awesome too.
PJ, I want to read your theses on psychology so I can tell you why you're wrong. I want, Maria, if you're still there, I want to see what ideas you've had. We're here to have discussions, not just always listen to us talk.
It's not just about discussions or talking. To me personally, the thing about this media, entertainment media, is like, look at what we've learned from the Art of War. Look at what we've learned from the DSM-5. Look at what we've learned from words written on a page, scenes in movies. Like if anything else, we can learn how not to interact. We can learn how not to act. Like when you see your least favorite character do everything wrong and the main character still loves that character, that's a sign to you that you can still love the guy that everybody hates. That's a sign that, like, it's bigger than anything to just learn from what's being produced, because these writers, whether they're writing fact or fiction, they're writing experience. And you don't have to go to Mordor to learn that sometimes you can suffer the entire journey, make the wrong decision at the end, but because you brought your best friend, he can save you from hell. Like if anything else you get from Lord of the Rings, it's that friendship can conquer every evil. And that has nothing to do with dragons. That has nothing to do with a magical ring. That has nothing to do with sword fights. That has to do with sticking by somebody while they're on their journey. And when you watch them fall, you pick them up. And when they tell you to leave, you go back for them. That's a real fact that you can take from a completely mythological story. And that to me is like why I truly love this channel, is it's my chance to like in Prey, there were great aspects of being a warrior. Those aspects exist forever, not in every medium. Like, very rarely are you going to need a bow or a hatchet with a string. But you're always going to need to know that if you feel you're right, you fight until you can prove that you were right. And that's important, especially in this day and age when there's so many people telling you what right is and none of them match. Like, we can look to fiction to find our truest understanding of what it means to be a hero, because in reality, so many of our heroes keep proving that they're not heroic. So many of our leaders suck at leadership, but in fiction, they nail it every time.
Well, the ones we're
And
supposed
that's
to.
how you learn to be the best leader, is by following somebody that actually does it every time. And yeah, they may have done it while fighting a dragon, but they did it. And that's the most important part.
There's a scene in Fellowship of the Ring that nowadays especially gets me choked up. When I was a kid, I didn't quite understand, but now as an adult, having gone through some shit, it's the scene where Frodo's like, I wish the ring had never come to me. And Gandalf's like, so do all who see such time. And that scene is just so timeless because it's true for just about any circumstance, any hardship you're going through. It's like, I don't want to deal with this shit. Well, of course not. Nobody actually wants to go through pain. However, as Kirk pointed out in Star Trek V, of all movies, which is still dialogue-wise, I still think 5 is good. Execution. Kirk says, no, I don't want you to take away my pain. I need my pain. It helps me define who I am. It helps me understand. And I think that's an important lesson because as much as pain in life sucks, it's not like it's a pure negative force that does nothing for you. In the end, pain and trial can build you into something you didn't even think you were capable of becoming. So, all right, coming down.
One of the most important lines in any of the written work for Wicca is, to learn, you must suffer. And that really boils it down, because, I mean, let's be honest, how many important life lessons have you ever learned from sitting comfortably on your couch?
Oh, quite a few nowadays, because we can watch these movies.
Vicariously, there are
and
some.
That's what I mean. I think from Buddhism, it's one of the 4 principles. Suffering is. It's gonna happen. Whether you're suffering on your couch that isn't comfortable enough to make you not suffer, whether your TV isn't good enough for 4K, those aren't obviously like the hardest sufferings, but to suffer is to tell you what better looks like. When you suffer, you know what you actually want. How can you know what you want if you always get it?
That's it.
Yep. And if you're a
right.
Meeseeks, existence is. All right, coming down to the last
Or disabled.
10 minutes here. Final thoughts regarding List episode 3.
I need to see episode 4.
Right? Yeah, I'm gonna go watch it tonight. I might wait. But yeah, no, I gotta give. It's hard for me to give the ratings with the book knowledge because it's like
I wouldn't give ratings until the end. I think giving ratings based on episodes is. It's like trying to judge Family Guy based on its episodes.
I think that's
Doesn't
perfectly
make any
fair.
sense.
Oh, it does to me. There's good episodes of Family Guy, and then there's garbage. Yeah, I'm not taking that comment back. And so far, and I think it is important because some episodes, some shows, especially long-running ones, like we're gonna do it with DS9. We're gonna rate each episode.
Yeah.
So,
but that's a show that has like in this instance, it doesn't make any sense because the continuity makes the other episodes better. Like as we get through the season, the other episodes suddenly all make sense. Like everything you complained about in episode 1 and 2, I was like, just wait.
You're gonna find that with Deep Space Nine as well, actually.
Yeah, I'll give it time, but at the same time, you know, there's sometimes you gotta call a turd, but I don't, and that's just it. That's my point. So far, episode 1 through 3, no turds. So I'll say that right now, I'll do it like this. We'll have a fluid rating system, or not rating for this show, so it'll change. So right now, the show is still riding after this week a 6 out of 7 for me. It's just got some things that it misses, I think, and some things that it kind of overlooks with the sequence, but overall, guys, you gotta watch this show. It's good. And please
really
join us every week. Next week we got so next week we got episode 4 Terminalist, and we're also going to do Predator. I think we're all in agreement that I need to see it,
Yes.
and we should talk about it. Apparently, it's a classic, so we should
You
probably
you
get
need
some
to
fans in
worship at the altar of Arnold.
there. Well, I've done that. Jingle All the Way is a great movie. Yeah, guess what I got planned for the Christmas Cringe special? That's one of them.
Dude, this is like
got a
this
little
is the
Anakin.
episode. This is 100% the episode you were trying to get me to pull out the voodoo doll on, isn't it? Like this is 100% that.
Careful what you wish for, Corione. Remember, I'm rubber, you're glue. What you try to pass on to me will stick onto you.
Okay.
And if we're both rubber, then we're gonna be like a ping pong table. Alright, so shout outs. I'm gonna go ahead and do my plugs first. I'd first like to
Do it.
plug Super Gamecraft is a soft R community for gaming, mostly MMOs. They're mostly focused on becoming an MMO channel. That is not what I copied, computer. Nice try. Please check them out. They also do have a YouTube as well. They actually are working on posting. So the reason I'm plugging them is because I play Grand Theft Auto with them every Monday right now. We're doing all the heists. They're working on doing some clip videos of those, and it's really entertaining. Actually, I previewed one recently. A lot of funny shenanigans. We just have a good time. You know, we play the games, try to play seriously, but it's not just playing the games that we do. We have conversations, we have laughs, we have gags. We just, it's unscripted, unfiltered, uncensored fun. So yeah, if you want to see us, make idiots of ourselves in Grand Theft Auto, please do. Also would like to give a shout out to Gangles, and I think we established he's a guy. If not, please come correct me. Gangles does a lot of Halo. Loves Halo's the reason that he found us, but unfortunately for me, I'm kind of taking a break from Halo for now, at least until co-op comes out. Real excited for co-op, but we're sticking with Warzone. However, I'm not the only one who plays or doesn't play Halo. I know a lot of our viewers here probably consider playing Halo, and if you want to watch him play Halo and suffer through Halo, please check him out. Twitch.tv/Gangles. And those are going to be my 2 plugs. So, gentlemen, what else do we have?
John,
Brian,
you want to
go
go?
ahead.
Are you sure?
Oh no, I'll go last. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. I think I'm gonna plug the next instance of the transmissions from the Rogue Council. I think we're gonna cover Area 51
Crap,
and
it's
all
this
the
week.
secret. Yeah, it is this week, and all the secret craziness going on there, from planes we've never heard of to all the really, really odd conspiracy theory stuff, to what I've even seen in remote viewing. So come check it out. But remember, the episodes only last 72 hours, and then they disappear back into the shadows from whence they came.
And there's no recap because I don't have time.
Fair enough.
I'll probably end up just throwing clips from all the episodes on, maybe do it a monthly. I don't know.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll get it figured out. But yes, I do enjoy that. See, and I really like that you've given us that opportunity because I love talking that fringe stuff. That's good stuff. John, go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna pitch the 3 things that I love this week. I just finished this episode of Lex Friedman and Duncan Trussell podcast. I thought it was so awesome. It deserves a shout out. So much fun to watch. Next shout out is my favorite YouTube, similar to ours. It's the Night's Watch. They do a lot of discussion on the media they care about. Mostly things like, I think they're talking about She-Hulk. They did Wheel of Time. They do a lot of discussions on the new Game of Thrones and the new Lord of the Rings that's coming out on Amazon.
Wait a minute.
I
That guy's
love
one
their
of the,
content.
That guy's
Super
the host
shout
of
out to
Trek Yards.
Which one is?
Yeah. I don't remember his name, but I follow him on
Which
Twitter
link
as
did
well.
you-
It's whatever video. I don't know. The guy sitting
The
in the
Night's
center
Watch
on
one?
their first episode. Yeah, I think that's if they do it. I think
Dad.
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Shout
Am I
out.
right, Corion? That's the Trek
I think
Yards
so.
guy.
I think it is. Yeah.
Cool.
He also has another one. Shadiversity, where he talks all about medieval lore. So phenomenal. Night's Watch, my favorite. Like, it literally is us doing different stuff than we're doing. So it's super shout out to them. And then
maybe
my
we
all-time
can,
favorite game review group, Game Ranks TV. They know what they're talking about. I've never once watched one of their before you buy videos and been disappointed if I decided to buy the game afterwards. So I want to promote that kind of stuff, like the stuff that actually works for me, the stuff that actually matters to me. These are what I love.
Right on, right on. So, yeah, I think we got, let's see. Down to the again, guys, thank you so much. It does help us if you can continue to spread the word, and we appreciate even you guys just showing up to watch us in the first. Please don't think that we aren't grateful at all for what you guys do. You know, if we could stay modestly small size for a while and have personal discussion, I mean, like I said, I want to make it a point that regardless of how far we go, we can still try to keep the discussion personal with founding members. So, yes.
Even new members, like, when we talk about founding members and we talk about anybody that supports us, like, your support matters so much that we'll take the time to bring you up. We'll take the time to bring you with us. Like, if you're here in the beginning, we love you. If you're here tomorrow, we love you. You're awesome. You matter to us at every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think
With that lovely point there, yeah, guys, thank you so much for showing up. And you know, we're here every Tuesday. Rain, shine, nuclear fallout, alien abduction, we are here. So you know, feel free to join us live. The chat room is lively. We get all kinds of interesting discussions going, and we'd love for you guys to participate in it.
Yep. So, I think that we've managed to cover everything we need to cover. And I'm Petey York with the Ryder Brothers. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.